Today I'd like to share with you some ideas for making concertina or accordion sketchbooks. I'm very excited this year because I'm going to be teaching a workshop in Cortona, Italy. I often teach in France, so I'm really looking forward to exploring the culture and landscape of another country, and the course is being offered by the company Toscana Americana, linked below. Check it out if you want to find out more about it. It's an all-inclusive course, which will include food, special outings, wine tasting, and all your accommodation, and me. So I'm really looking forward to bringing some of the ideas that I've been developing for working in sketchbooks on location in the last years, particularly working in the concertina sketchbook. So today I'm going to show you how to make a concertina sketchbook. And I think these are just really fantastic for just for creating a record of an experience or a place that's really very unique. So we'll be working in Italy with lots of different material in different ways, on different kinds of papers, and generating images joyfully over the course of the week, and then curating them into concertina sketchbooks so that everybody will have a book that is specifically theirs on the experience of being in Cortona. I find that this really kind of depressures the experience of sketching on location, sketching and drawing on location. And probably many of you have had the experience where you get a brand new sketchbook, you're excited about filling it with images, and you open it up and it's just terrifying to see that first white page. So working this way in a concertina book, where you create the images and then curate them into the book, is a lot less stressful and I think a lot of fun. So let's make a concertina book. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut this piece of Stonehenge drawing paper into a couple of lengths, and then I'm going to attach them. So these books can be created with shorter pieces and attached to make them longer, and you can make them as long as you want. Here's some of the tools I've got: sharp X-Acto knife, an H pencil, and this is a bone folder that's great for folding when we get to the part where we actually fold the pages into concertinas or accordions. So I'm going to just measure this really carefully first, align the top up carefully on the measure of my cutting board here, and then use my ruler to measure down 7 inches. So I'll make several marks here along the way. Measuring carefully is really important here. It'll save you a lot of grief in the end. It just makes the books work better if you make sure you've got your measurements really accurate. So I did, make a couple of boo-boos here, but I'm confident about this line here. Now I'm going to, and we can always erase that. So now I'm going to cut along that line. Carefully. Really being careful to line those lines up properly, and using a really sharp X-Acto knife. Trimming off a little inconsistency there. Now just take out the lines that weren't quite right. Now, let's do the measure for the pages. These are going to be 5 inches wide. So these cutting boards allow you to really line up your pieces accurately. And I'm going to actually run a light line down every 5 inches. And then I'll score them very lightly. That's where we're going to make our folds. And we have one more fold to make. And I'll just be trimming off this side of the decal edge. Now, let's make a light score along these lines. So depending on the paper you use, you may need to make a heavier score than others. We're really just scoring it lightly so that it folds easily. And just take a scrap piece and experiment with it. And then we're going to cut this edge off. Now, these should bend quite easily, so just give them a little gentle nudge. The bone folder is great for just sharpening that edge. Now we know that we're going to be going back and forth with the concertina book. So I'm going to line this edge up because it's an accordion kind of shape and just fold it back in the other direction. And then I'm going to fold it back in this direction. And so on. It's nice to have the line to just line up with there. And the score will just help to ease that fold. So there we go. There's our first piece of our concertina book. And if you've measured properly, all these things should be even. These edges. Mine's a little off here. So I'm going to make another section of these and then show you how you can join them. So now I have two sections. They're 5 by 7. There's a deckled edge on the end of each of them. And I've folded them over and kind of sharpened those edges with this little tool called a bone folder. I guess they used to be made of bone for the original bookmakers. They were a bookmaker tool. Now they're made of plastic. You can just use a wooden spoon though. You don't have to have this fancy piece of equipment. All right, so what do we do to join them together? So I like to use just plain old white glue. I'll put it in a little shooter cup like this. You could use something like Yes glue. A glue stick might be a bit, not quite strong enough. So what we do is find how to join these. So here's the last page of this book. And we know this is going to be the last page of this book with the deckled edge. So we want to join them together. Now the folds may not be going in the right direction if we do that. If we join these two like this, actually that we'll need to flip around the folds. What about if we did it this way? Yeah, so that works. You find the orientation that allows you to have that alternating fold. So I'm going to put glue on this surface and on this surface and glue these together. So we'll have a double page, double thickness on one page. I'm just putting a little bit of water in my brush, my flat brush, because the glue is a little dry. Just slip a little wax paper under here so we don't get glue all over my cutting board. And then we'll make sure that we get the glue really out to all the edges. We want it to cover really well. And I'm actually going to glue both surfaces. So with this one, we're going to glue this, put the glue on this side. And really right out to the edges, because you don't want any edges that are kind of hanging open. There we go. Now, let's put those together. Really lining them up perfectly. A little bit of glue in there. Just take it off with a damp towel. And maybe run our folder over it. And it's a good idea, just in case you've got a little bit of glue that's going to seep out of those edges, to put pieces of wax paper in between while it dries. So that's how I'd store it. Maybe put a book over it while it overnight. Put a book on it overnight so that it dries nice and flat. But let's just take a look at that again before I put it in storage. So that's our concertina book. And the beauty of these is that we actually have a lot of pages here. So we have let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on one, 10, 11 on one side, 11 on the other side. So you can actually hold a lot of work in these, and you can make them any size that you want. You can use them as books for a certain time or place. I use them for journaling, for particular experiences, and that's what we'll be using them for in Italy. We'll be filling them with images that we create on other pieces of paper. We'll work on a lot of different kinds of papers and with a lot of different kinds of media and different treatments of our subject. Sometimes we'll be doing vignettes, sometimes we'll be doing more complete sketches, sometimes we'll just be grabbing palettes or fonts that we find, small details, architectural details, studies of people and squares, whatever we find. And then our last part of the workshop is to curate them into our book. And so at the end of the experience, we'll have a book on our experience of sketching and painting in Cortona for the week. And you can do the same thing. You could do a book on a trip that you take, or you could do a book for a family member, an event. These things are just really great little objects when they're done. So here's one that I made when I was giving a course out on the west coast of Vancouver Island. The book includes things like jelly prints and quick sketches, long landscape studies. And I still had lots left over. So I first developed these for my Sense of Place course, which I offered last spring online. Here's the book that I generated from that experience. And it actually has, you can put a special cover on it. You can add things like ties, different kinds of images, different kinds of information. The fun part about curating them is you can add things later. You can play with fonts and include text. So it's a really, it's a fun and kind of low stress way to create a book for a special, about a special place or for a special occasion. So I hope you consider joining me in Italy for a week of sketching and painting in beautiful Cortona. Don't forget to check out the link below for Toscana Americana.